Sweeney.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Secretary of State for advance sight of his statement. On Tuesday, we had a situation where the Secretary of State for Scotland allowed his government to ride roughshod over the wishes of the Scottish Parliament within the space of around 20 minutes. From where I stand, the Secretary of State has done nothing about the programme motion that we opposed, meaning that he was entirely complicit in the shambles that we all witnessed on Tuesday night, meaning that Scottish, Welsh and Northern Irish members were entirely shut out of the debate. The Labour Party opposed this week's programme motion for a whole host of reasons, one of which was because of the lack of time to discuss devolution. The Labour Party forced the government to have 2 days of debate on the withdrawal bill rather than the original 12 hours. In stark contrast, the Secretary of State voted for the programme motion and voted for Scotland's voice to be silenced. And to blame this on the opposition for voting on the Lord's amendments is as ludicrous as it is misleading. What happened this week is completely and utterly unacceptable. We have seen shabby and deplorable antics from the Tories when it comes to the time allowed for debate, and we have seen counterproductive antics from the SNP yesterday that further curtailed debate. The people of Scotland deserve better, and they simply want to fix this mess by the politicians that they sent here to stand up for them before this shambles ends up in court. As John Smith said back when he was creating the Scottish Parliament, there are two people sawing away at the legs that support the Union. One is the Scottish National Party, who, of course, want to destroy the unity that is the United Kingdom, but the other is the reckless Conservative Party, which is stubbornly clinging to an unsustainable position and refused to debate, never mind seek any compromise or consensus on these most critical matters that the future of our nation relies upon. The Secretary of State was responsible for taking the Scotland Act of 2016 through this place. He was responsible for inserting the Sewell Convention into the legislation, and now he is the person responsible for trampling all over that convention that underpins the devolution settlement. The Labour Party tabled amendments to Clause 11 of the bill at every stage. The Secretary of State and his colleagues voted them down every time. These amendments would have ensured that the Joint Ministerial Committee would have had to report to this place and would have had to have published the minutes of their meetings. That would have allowed people in Scotland to see exactly what has been going on behind closed doors. The Secretary of State voted that down. We proposed amendments that would have ensured that any common UK frameworks that his government seemed to value so much, would not be forced upon the Scottish Parliament. The Secretary of State voted that down. We have proposed amendments that would have ensured that the Scottish Parliament had to give its consent unless the matter related to international obligations, which the Secretary of State will know is entirely in line with the Scotland Act. Yet rather than allow us to even just debate that amendment, the Secretary of State allowed Scotland's voice to be shut out of the debate altogether. The Secretary of State promised that he would fix this mess that his government created, yet he's done absolutely nothing. He is Scotland's invisible man in the Cabinet. The leader of Scottish Labour and the Shadow Secretary of State have both written repeatedly to the Deputy Prime Minister asking for cross-party talks to find a solution. So far, those requests have been denied. One really does have to wonder whether the UK Government and the Scottish Government actually have any intention whatsoever in sorting this out for the people of Scotland. So I would like to ask the Secretary of State, will he here and now accept the offer of cross-party meeting to resolve this and uphold the devolution settlement? Section 22 of the EU Withdrawal Bill allows for consequential amendments to be made to the bill where it is appropriate. Has the Secretary of State explored this avenue, and is he open to consequential amendments under this section if a deal is struck between the Scottish and UK governments? Can the Secretary of State tell the House what mechanisms are available for members of this House to debate the issue, given there was no debate at all this week? Will the Secretary of State now agree to publish the minutes of all meetings of the Joint Ministerial Committee that pertain to the EU negotiations? Does he have any regrets about how this situation has been perceived in Scotland? And finally, if there is no agreement between the Scottish and UK governments, will he resign? Because it's very clear that he has not have either the confidence, leadership or ability to fix this matter of critical importance to the future of our country.